Hello YouTubers, Enjoy Tactics here, and today we'll be talking about the bud switch for this episode of Redstone Tutorials, and I'm excited to explain it to you. I've talked about it in the past, but we're going to really cover it in depth in this video from top to bottom, and when I mean from top to bottom in depth, I really mean it. If you've seen previous tutorials, you know I like to explain everything about the topic I'm teaching you. So, today's will be bud switches. So I'm going to start out from where bud switches came from. Most people believe that Etho's lab created the first bud switch, and you can go check him out if you want. I don't believe he does that much redstone anymore, if any, but yeah, he was the first to create a bud switch, so that's pretty cool. I'm going to leave his channel in the description. And basically, he made a device that was able to detect updates in blocks, and it automatically reset itself. So whenever there was an update next to the bud switch, it would send a signal. Kind of like this. So for example, is this on or off? That's on. Okay. So for example, let's say I wanted this to activate whenever I updated a block next to this piston. Let's say I place this block, then it sends a signal. Now I want it to update when I break this block. Well, it changes the state of the redstone. So that's an example of a toggleable bud switch. And I have some more examples down here of every single combination of way of a bud switch can be made. Every combination of blocks that a bud switch can be made by. That's what I meant to say. So over here I have something built with a bud switch. It actually uses two bud switches. Now without bud switches we couldn't do a whole lot in redstone. So many things would break. There is just no replacement for bud switches. They can do really cool things, and you cannot replace them with any other known mechanism in the game. So if they were taken out, then we would lose a lot. And that's why Mojang has decided not to take them out. And I also forgot to tell you one important fact. They were not originally supposed to be in the game. They're actually a glitch or a bug, whatever you want to call it, and Mojang didn't want to patch it, and they're not going to. They said they have no plans of patching it because it was included in so many redstone designs. Like I said, it would break so many things, and us redstoners would just be generally upset if they broke it. So without further ado, I have my hidden carpet door using a bud switch, and I'll explain how this works. But let me just check something. Alright, just wanted to make sure it wasn't broken because I used it before. Alright, so here's our door, and we can flick it closed again, and this can be used as a secret base or whatever you want, or if you just want to walk in with swagger and not even have to flick a button, you know, hit a lever, walk on a pressure plate, any of that. All you have to do is just walk in, and it doesn't even look like a door. It just looks kind of like a wall. If I would take away all these aesthetics, all this, you know, and just make it look more generally like a wall, maybe cover up some of the redstone, you wouldn't know that it was even a door. And the cool thing is, this doesn't even look like it's redstone, really, and it just looks like carpet from the top. So yeah, if I were to hide this redstone, it would just look like carpet. So that's one cool thing you can do with a bud switch. There are many other examples I could show you, but instead of showing you 100 examples of what you can do with a bud switch, I will let you think of some of your own ideas and be creative with this. Alright, now I'm going to demonstrate how the bud switch works, and it's going to be a bit technical, so pay attention. Okay. So we're going to create a little path here, and I'm going to explain specifically the instance of how this door opens and how walking on the carpet detects your you walking on it. So we're going to create this little bud switch here, and obviously this isn't exactly like the one I have up there in the actual door, but this is just an example. Oops. Alright, so let's say this wire is going to lead to the door with all the pistons so it opens up the door? Well, we have to do this, and we're going to set it so that whenever I walk on this carpet and on this redstone block, it's going to start like creating particles, being very shiny. So if I walk on it, we can see it starts to create particles. It's got red particles all around it, and it's shiny, right? So with a block update detector, we can detect that. And if you have carpet, they're not going to see what's under the floor. And using this block update detector, we can detect whenever they walk on the redstone block. There. So as you can see, it's going to send a signal to the door, and that's how this works here. Alright, so I still haven't explained exactly how the bud switch has done that. So now we're going to get a bit more technical. And we're going to go over here and explain exactly how they work. Alright, so this would be an example of a bud switch, and this would be your output. So here's how a bud switch works. A bud switch works by having this block, or this one, or any of these in this combination you can use powered. So what I'm trying to say here is, if I power any of these blocks in relation to this piston, or the one that it's closest to, then it will create a bud switch, so that whenever I update the blocks next to it, it's going to activate. Or it can also retract. So if I turn this off, and I break this entire thing, and it clearly should be off, because there's nothing powering it, but that's the trick with bud switches. You have to update it. You have to update the piston. So I could do this, place a block, oops, already had it on, place a block, and then do this, break a block. And same thing with this, and it also works like this. And you don't have to have a lever, it can be any block above it that is powered. And let me just try something. I'm not sure if it works with the redstone wire as well. We don't want the actual block powering the piston, just the glowstone. And that's kind of weird. So I guess that has to do with the bud. Even if you put glowstone here, it's going to activate. Yeah, I think, let me try this. Gotta stay on track. So yeah, the glowstone isn't actually powering the piston, I believe. I believe it's this redstone, but it's causing some sort of bud in order to power it. It's not exactly clear to me. If you think you might have an idea what's going on, leave it in the comments, because I really didn't understand that. So we're moving on. Here I have a T-bud or toggle bud, which means that whenever I update the piston, it's going to toggle it on or off. So if I update it once, it toggles it off. Update it again, toggles it on. And with these T-buds, I kind of forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, if you update it really quickly, like if you place a block to update it and then break a block to update it, the same block, then it counts that as one update, because obviously the piston doesn't retract. It doesn't technically retract instantly with the block. I mean, in terms of redstone it does, but that's for a whole nother video. But if I would do this really quickly, then yes, it is going to only have one update, because it can't detect the update while the piston is moving. Okay, so that's it. That's how the T-bud works. And here we have the most common form of bud switches that you will use. And I actually should have used this type on my door over there, because it would have made the door close behind you properly like it should have, but I didn't do that. So here's our output, and basically whenever I update this piston, it sends a quick signal saying, hey, I just received an update. So if I were to walk on this, why did that not... Oh, if I were to walk on this, yeah, there it went. So, yeah, it's every time it does an update, you will get a pulse from this. And it's automatically resetting, so you don't need to break blocks and flick levers and reset it yourself. This is, like I said, the most common version, and it's really simple and really easy. So, that is how the bud switch actually works. Alright, I'm going to talk a little bit more on some different ideas using this bud switch that may not seem obvious. Alright, so we have lamps. We're going to get some lamps. Going to get some fence gates. I'm not sure if lamps still work, but we're going to try it. So we're going to create a simple bud switch. Turn this on so we know that whenever I place a block, it's going to push out and update the piston. But if we place a fence gate here, why is that not working? I do not know. Oh, I think we have to use another piston. Okay, so we're going to get out another piston. You can actually use another piston to update this piston. So for example, if I wanted to update this piston, but I wanted to control when I'm updating it, I would use another piston. So this would be our bud right here, telling this piston to go on or off when it's updated, and then this would be our updater. It says update the piston, and actually we don't need that to be a lever. So we're going to tell it what to do, on or off, and then we do update, and there. And this can actually be used, this idea can be used for Redstone memory. So that's pretty cool. So let's say we want it on, we update it, and it's on. And yeah, the only problem is with this particular design is that this stays extended. If you would want to fix this, then you just move it like that, because I didn't realize that this block was budding this piston. And that's another thing to watch out for. Not all buds are good. If something in your redstone design is just absolutely not matching up, it's not making any sense to you whatsoever, and you don't understand what's happening, it may be a bud switch. If pistons are extending and you don't get why, like for example, I just had this problem where I had the piston right here. Now, immediately, I did not notice that this piston wasn't retracting properly. But that can be a problem in redstone. You have to watch out for the bad buds, the ones that are created on accident, and they create problems, as you can see. But you're just gonna have to fix those. They're not really that bad. I mean, they don't cause me that much trouble. They cause me about as much trouble as the burning out torches do whenever I place a block like this. But yeah, sometimes they pop up and they cause you problems, but other times you need to use them. And actually, if we go over here in the store, I have a great example of how I used it. Now, I'm just gonna kind of come on over here and mimic what I did over there, up there. So I kind of had it like this, and I didn't want to power these two pistons from underground, because like really, who is gonna want to dig redstone underground if this door was at ground level, and you know, do all the underground wiring and wire it up and time it and all that? Or we could just use a simple bud switch in order to power the bottom pistons exactly the same time we power the top pistons. And I'm going to show you this, so this is a pretty cool idea. It's exactly what I did up there. So we have redstone like this, and if I power this, these are all powered. But wait, these two bottom pistons aren't receiving power. Or are they? Well, we were talking about bud switches, and you know that if I do this to a piston, then it is budded. Now, doesn't that look very similar to what I'm doing over here? We have a piston here, and we have a piston here, below these. And let's think for a moment. If I put a piston here, this piston is going to push out and update this piston, even when it turns off, and they're going to go at the exact same time. So I don't even need to have any underground wiring in order to get these two pistons, or any wiring from the side that could look ugly. All I had to do is use this bud switch. So this is a great example of how bud switches can come in handy, and they can save you some redstone. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Oh, and there's also this other problem with bud switches. So this is one of the times they are unwanted. So if I hook up a piston to this redstone wire, I'm gonna get a lever to give myself control over it. Then what should happen in this situation is it should push out, which it does just perfectly fine, and then it should pull back. Wait a second, why isn't it pulling back? Well, I'm gonna explain this to you. The reason it is not actually retracting like it should is because of the bud, and you cannot fix this. It is, I repeat, unfixable unless you break this block. So this, if you're ever looking for like a one-time use kind of thing, then this may be useful, because I do see if you were ever going to only need a wire for one time, for example in like a minigame or something, you could configure it in this way so that once it's up, it stays that way. No matter what you do to it, the signal will always stay on. Right? So you could also use it for that. And yeah, if you ever place a piston like this in this configuration, then just know that if you power it, you are not going to ever be able to use it again unless you break this block. And generally in Redstone, we don't like to have to break things and replace them a lot. So this is one of those times when a bud switch can completely break something, and it has completely broken the ability to have an upwards facing piston with a redstone block on it. Alright guys, that's pretty much everything I know about bud switches. I've shared all my knowledge with you, and I hope you enjoyed the video. But before I go, I'd like to leave you with a warning. If you are using bud switches, or even doing anything redstone with TNT or something destructive, something one-time usage, you need to be very vigilant and very careful that a bud switch does not come up in a place you wouldn't expect it, because that can totally ruin what you were doing. So yeah, just be careful. And now that you know about bud switches and how they work, and now that you're aware of them, maybe some of the phenomenon in your redstone that you could not explain why it was happening or it wasn't supposed to be happening, maybe you can understand it now. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a rating, comment, and subscribe for more great videos.